In the previous part, we have discussed the relationship between analog input value in terms of decimal number representation with the temperature measurement in the measurement of degree Fahrenheit unit. In this part and next following part of the video, I'm going to show you the ladder logic programming for Siemens S7 300 PLC and S7 1200 PLC. I'm going to start the explanation with the ladder logic programming for S7 1200 PLC using a built-in function, which is the calculate function. You can start your TIA portal version 15. For S7 1200 PLC or S7 1500 PLC, we can use a built-in function, which is calculate function. So go to program block in the main OB. We're going to create our first ladder network in the network 1 using a mathematical function which we call as a calculate function. So we can find the calculate function, the basic instruction, math function. So this is the calculate function. Take a look at the calculate function. On the calculate function, there is one dialog box where the mathematical equation can be inserted. To insert the mathematical expression, just click on the top right icon here. Then we can type the mathematical expression based on the parameter of inputs. So look at the example. We can insert a multiple input. Input 1, input 2, input 3, input 4, 5, and so on. Also, take a look on this box. So here we have to choose the appropriate data type. Okay. So on the data type, we can choose integer, double integer, real, long real, and so on. On the left hand side, we can have the input. So here by default, we have input 1, input 2. We can add more input by clicking this icon, which is insert input. Just click. And we also have on the right hand side one output. Referring to the mathematical expression that we have derived earlier, in general we have 4 inputs, which is the AI, the analog input, the decimal number 4095, then we also have 350 degree Fahrenheit, and we also have 50 degree Fahrenheit. So assume that we want to assign these parameters as inputs, multiple inputs. So let's assume we have 4 parameters. Then we're going to assign 350 degree Fahrenheit as input 1, 4095 as input 2, 50 degree Fahrenheit as input 3, and analog input AI as input 4. For input 4, it is for analog input which is AI. So we have to assign with appropriate address. So for analog input, we assign as IW64, and for analog output, it should be we utilize the memory word MW90. So now we can define our mathematical expression in this dialog box by activating this icon. For analog value processing, we have to make sure that we assign appropriate data type for the parameter. So take a look on all parameter. So we have The input AI, which is address IW64, the data type is word, and the output, which is the memory word 90, the data type is word. To change this to integer and change the data type for calculate function to real. So now the calculate function is working. We can now download our ladder logic, ladder programming, into our simulation PLC. So for analog value processing, we can monitor the value using the force table. So on the force table, we can insert our parameter, which is the analog input and the output, whereby the analog input is IW64, and for the analog output, or for the memory word output, is MW90. So we're going to see when we force a value on analog input 64, which is analog input, then we're going to see what happened with the output MW90. So assume that we force value 0. When we force value 0, the output will be 50 degree Fahrenheit. Okay. Now we try to force value 4095. So when we force value 4095, the output will become 400 degree Fahrenheit. So the output will become 400 degree Fahrenheit. Assume that we change a value in between, let's say 300. So the value becomes 76 degree Fahrenheit. When we force the value 2500, the output becomes 264 degree Fahrenheit. Next we try 4000. The output is 392. Input is 4000, the output is 392 degree Fahrenheit.